My name is Logan Fitch. I retired as a major and I held the rank of major during the operation. Certainly one of the highlights of my military career and even one of the highlights of my life. And I'm proud to have been in that role. And I'm just so proud, much more proud of what has evolved from those rather primitive struggles 40 odd years ago. Let me say first that if you can't fail, you can't learn. Failure is a essential part of learning and growing. Don't be afraid to fail. Having said that, I hate every second, every moment of the thought that we failed in that mission because it was so critically important to us and to the military and to our country. So I'm not trying to say that we glory in that failure, but the fact is that it did, as you said, have a profound effect on so many things, particularly in the military. First of all, it validated the need for a unit or an organization that could operate independently. For example, in Eagle Claw, we had people from here and people from there and all thrown together. I often say, or used to say, that this is it's a hey you thing. Hey you come over here and fly these planes. Hey you come over here and do this and do that. We had worked extensively with the Air Force Special Operations people if you were in Special Forces, you spent a lot of time with them. There were some other units that were involved, and they, in some cases, simply failed to do what they were supposed to do. They were probably, in my mind, not the right people to be on that mission. And perhaps as important as all that is the fact that there was no extant command and control unit. And we were dinged pretty heavy on that by the Holloway Commission, which conducted an after action who shot John thing. And the fact that the commander of the task force was one of those hey you people, he did not know and could not know our capabilities. For one thing, we kept them so secret intentionally that very few people knew about it. And he didn't know what we could do and couldn't do. He had not worked with the Air Force Special Operations people, nor had he worked with the aviation element, which evolved into some Marine aviators flying a helicopter off a carrier. So those were lessons learned. It's important to be secretive. It's important to have operational security, but you can get yourself in a corner because if nobody knows what you do or what you can do, it's hard for them to employ you. Command and control was a very big issue, and from that operation was JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, was formed, and I had the pleasure of serving on that in its early days, helping get it put together. And it has evolved into just an amazing organization doing amazing things with the tools that they have, those being the Tier 1 units, the very own aviation assets. I did mean to say that one of the lessons learned was the commander or somebody in charge of this game's got to have his own assets. And I did mention the Air Force. I did mention the Tier 1 units, but on top of that, the helicopter units in my opinion, the people flying the helicopters were great guys, and um, they were just not the right ones for the job, in my opinion. I use the analogy that you can take a bus driver, for example, who has driven for 40 years, millions of miles, never had an accident, an exemplary record, and put him in a Indy race car, and he's probably going to kill himself and a few other folks besides. And I sort of think that's what we had. These people were well-meaning, but they were not trained in special operations. They didn't understand the concept of special operations and the don't quit attitude that's required. All of those things, I think, were lessons learned. And of course, from that also, um, the result was the formation in the Army of a Special Forces branch and an aviation branch. In the past, if you, like me, I was an infantry officer, and when I went to Special Forces, the infantry branch didn't like that because they spent all this money training me to be an infantry officer, and there I was off goofing off with these Green Beret weirdos, and I wasn't contributing a thing to infantry branch, and they were understandably, they didn't like that sort of thing. So those are two other spinoffs. I'm happy and honored, and I look forward to it. We have in the past got together, both in the unit, some of the former unit members who participated in this operation were there to try to tell some of the newer people what we did right, what we did wrong, and so on, a sort of lessons learned thing. And we've done that on a number of occasions. I have done some public. I have, and several other people have done some public meetings. We sometimes we a few times have tried to participate and raise funds for various special operations things, particularly as I'm pointing here, the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, um, which really grew out of that tragedy there in the desert.